Deep underground in an undisclosed location, Tread Comics presents The Transformers. The Transformers is a half-hour American animated robot superhero television series which originally aired from September 17, 1984 to November 11, 1987. The Transformers is the first of many series in the Transformers franchise. It was based upon Hasbro's Transformers toy line, itself based upon the Diaclone and Microman toy lines originally created by Japanese toy manufacturer Takara, and depicted a war amongst giant robots that can transform into vehicles and other objects. Co-produced between Marvel Productions and Sunbow Productions for first-run syndication, animation for the series was done by Toei Animation in Japan and later Acom in South Korea. The series was supplemented by a feature film, The Transformers the Movie, in 1986, taking place between the second and third seasons. This series is also known as Generation 1, a term originally coined by fans in response to the rebranding of the franchise as Transformers Generation 2 in 1992, which eventually made its way into official use. The Transformers toy line and cartoon animated series was inspired by the Japanese toy line Microman, an Eastern descendant of the 12-inch G.I. Joe action figure series. In 1980, the Microman spin-off Diaclone was released, featuring inch-tall humanoid figures able to sit in the driver's seats of scale model vehicles, which could transform into humanoid robot bodies the drivers piloted. Later still, in 1983, a Microman subline, Microchange, was introduced, featuring quote-unquote actual sized items that transformed into robots, such as microcassettes, guns, and toy cars. Diaclone and Microchange toys were subsequently discovered at the 1983 Tokyo Toy Fair by Hasbro Toy Company product developer Henry Orstein, who presented the concept to Hasbro head of R&D George Dunsey. Enthusiastic about the product, it was decided to release the toys from both Diaclone and Microchange as one toy line for their markets, although there are eventual changes to the color schemes from the original toys to match the new series. By 1984, U.S. regulators had removed many of the restrictions regarding the placement of promotional content within children's television programming, the way it was cleared for the new product-based television program. Hasbro had previously worked with Marvel Comics to develop G.I. Joe, a real American hero, for a three-pronged marketing scheme: the toy line, a tie-in comic book by Marvel, and an animated miniseries co-produced by Marvel's media arm, Marvel Productions, and the Griffin Balka advertising agency's Sunbow Productions. Given the success of that strategy, the process was repeated in 1984 when Hasbro marketing vice president Bob Purpose approached Marvel to develop their new robot series, which Jay Bacall dubbed Transformers. Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, Jim Shooter, produced a rough story concept for the series, creating the idea of two warring factions of alien robots, the heroic Autobots and evil Decepticons. To flesh out his concept, Shooter called upon veteran editor Dennis O'Neil to create character names and profiles for the cast. But O'Neil's work did not meet with Hasbro's expectations, and they requested heavy revisions. O'Neil declined to make said revisions, and the project was turned down by several writers and editors approached by Shooter until editor Bob Budinsky accepted the task. Hastily performing the revisions over a weekend, Budinsky's new names and profiles were a hit with Hasbro, and production began on a bi-monthly 4-issue comic book miniseries and 3-part television pilot. Both comic and cartoon would wind up continuing for years beyond these short-term beginnings, using Budinsky's original developmental work as a springboard to tell the story of the Transformers in a very different way from one another, forming 2 separate, unrelated continuities for the brand right out of the gate. Japanese toy designer Shohei Kohara was responsible for creating the earliest character models for the Transformers cast, greatly humanizing the toy designs to create more approachable robot characters for the comic and cartoon. His designs were subsequently simplified by Floro de Rey, who went on to become the lead designer for the series, creating many more concepts and designs in the future. The 3-part pilot miniseries, retroactively titled More Than Meets the Eye, first aired in the United States in September of 1984. The story follows Optimus Prime's heroic Autobots and Megatron's evil Decepticons as they leave their metallic homeworld of Cybertron to search for new sources of energy to revitalize their war efforts, only to crash land on Earth, where they remained entombed and offline for 4 million years. Awakening in the year of 1984, the Decepticons set about pillaging the energy sources of Earth, while the Autobots, aided by human father and son, Sparkplug and Spike Whittaky, attempted to protect the new world on which they find themselves. The miniseries concluded with the Decepticons believed dead after their space cruiser is sent plunging into the ocean depths, while the Autobots prepare for a return to Cybertron. The 13-episode first season was commissioned and produced before the pilot miniseries aired and was broadcast between October and December on Saturday mornings. Story edited at Marvel Productions by Bryce Malek and Dick Robbins, the season begins with the revelation that the Decepticons have survived the events of the pilot and follows them as they set about constructing a space bridge to teleport resources back to Cybertron. A loose story arc centered on this technology spans the season, culminating in The Ultimate Doom, a 3-part episode in which the Decepticons teleport Cybertron itself into Earth's orbit. The paraplegic computer expert Chip Chase joins Spike and Sparkplug as a new human ally for the Autobots. This season also introduced several new characters from the upcoming 1985 product line in advance of the toy's release, including Skyfire, the Dinobots, the Insecticons, and the first combiner team, the Constructicons, who are able to merge into a giant robot, Devastator, whose introduction was set alongside a climactic one-on-one duel between Optimus Prime and Megatron that served as part of the season finale. 49 further episodes were commissioned for the show's second season in 1985, bringing the total number to the magic number of 65 required to move the series into a weekday broadcast syndication. Compared to the first season, Season 2 stories are more episodic, with many of them able to air in whatever order networks choose. Episodes would often spotlight individual characters or group of characters as a means of promoting their toys, and later in the season, the lore of the series would be expanded on as the history of Cybertron and the origin of Optimus Prime were discovered. and significant cartoon original characters like Alpha Troy, the first female Transformer characters, were introduced. A new recurring human cast member was also added in the form of Spike's girlfriend, Carly. Partway into the season, the remainder of the 1985 product line was introduced, mostly through the two-part episode Dinobot Island. These characters, like the first-year cast, were largely derived from Takara's Diaclone and Microchange lines, including new Autobot car and mini vehicles, and Decepticon jets, and giant Autobot Sentinel Omega Supreme, and Decepticon triple changers, Astro Change, and Blitzwing. To expand the line, however, Hasbro also licensed several toys from other companies, including Takara's Japanese competitor, Bandai. Legal complications arose from incorporating the first of these, Skyfire, into the first season, resulting in the character quickly being phased out early in Season 2, and meant that none of the other Bandai-derived characters featured in the series. Towards the end of the season, the first 1986 product was introduced into the series. The Aerial Bots, Stunticon, Protectobots, and Combaticons, 4 combiner teams based on an unmade Diaclone line that were aborted in Japan in favor of importing the Transformers toy line itself. To promote these new toys even further in Japanese markets, a single Japanese exclusive episode, Transformers Scramble City, was released direct-to-video in the spring of 1986. The gap between seasons 2 and 3 was bridged by Transformers the Movie, which was released to theaters in the summer of 1986. Set 20 years after the second season in the year 2005, the film featured the deaths of many characters, including Optimus Prime himself, clearing away all the discontinued products from the 1984 and 1985 toy lines, and introducing a new cast of characters designed for the film, who were then made into toys for the 1986 line. Young Autobot Hot Rod used his power of the Autobot talisman known as the Matrix of Leadership to become the new Autobot leader, Rodimus Prime, in defeating the world-eating robot planet, Unicron. Season 3 picks up where the movie leaves off, with the Autobots now in control of Cybertron once more, working to restore their homeworld and serving as peacemakers for the worlds all across the galaxy. The Decepticons, meanwhile, are in exile on the ruled world of Char, now led by Galvatron, the rebuilt, upgraded version of Megatron, recreated by Unicron. Interconnected episodes, running plot threads, and small story arcs became more common in the series, including the return of Starscream following his death in the movie as a ghost, frequent battles between giant Autobot and Decepticon cities of Metroplex and Trypticon, and the threat to both sides possessed by the alien quintessence introduced in the movies and revealed in this season's premiere miniseries, 5 Faces of Darkness, to be the true creators of the Transformers. This season saw story editing duties transfer from Marvel Productions to Sunbow. Animation for around half the season was provided by producer Nelson Shin's South Korean ACOM Animation Studios, creating a different look for the show that encompassed its opening sequence and commercial bumpers. The death of Optimus Prime proved a controversial move and did not sit well with the viewing audience, resulting in a letter-writing campaign that ultimately compelled Hasbro to resurrect the Autobot leader in a 2-part season finale called The Return of Optimus Prime, which aired in March of 1987. The series came to a close in November of 1987 with the broadcast of the fourth season, a three-part finale miniseries named The Rebirth. This packed adventure was written by regular series writer David Wise, sent the Autobots and Decepticons to the alien worlds of Nebulos, where they bonded with the native Nebulans to become headmasters and target masters. The series concluded with the successful restoration of Cybertron at last, but the Decepticons stole the final scene, their threat not yet squashed. The Transformers did not, however, disappear from American airwaves as a fifth season aired in 1988. It consisted of reruns of 15 episodes from the original series, along with the Transformers the Movie edited into 5 episodes, with new introductory sequences featuring a human boy named Tommy Kennedy, portrayed by actor Jason Jansen, and a stop-motion / machine prop Optimus Prime puppet. From 1993 to 1995, select episodes of the series were rebroadcast under the title Transformers Generation 2. The stories were presented as though they were historical recordings displayed on the Cybernet Space Cube, which added computer-generated borders and scene transitions to the original animation.